Hello everyone, welcome to this March and April edition of This Month in Flag News. I'm Vexillographer. Now, before we begin, I want to take a little time to remember Gilbert Baker, who died this past March. Gilbert Baker was a very talented artist and flag designer who was responsible for designing the famous gay pride flag, also known as the rainbow flag. The rainbow flag was originally designed by Gilbert Baker in 1978 with 8 different stripes on it, with 8 different colors. And this flag, eventually people realized that it's kind of expensive to produce a flag with 8 different colors of fabric, so eventually it got condensed into just 6 colors. And this 6-colored rainbow flag has spread all over the country since then, all over the world. And it's become a very powerful, inspirational symbol used by people to not just fight against discrimination against LGBT people, but it's also been used to just celebrate the LGBT community worldwide. And it's become one of the most iconic, famous flags in human history. And we have Gilbert Baker to thank for that. So I just wanted to take a little time to mention that. Now, let us get into the flag news stories of the past couple months. Our first story comes from the West African nation of Mauritania. The current flag of Mauritania has a green background with a yellow star and crescent in the center of the flag. This makes it one of the only 2 countries in the world that doesn't have any red, white, or blue on it. The other one's Jamaica, if you were curious about that. So Mauritania's flag looks like this, but the president of Mauritania would like to change that. President Mohammed Ould Abdelaziz would like to add 2 red stripes to the flag of Mauritania on the top and bottom, and this would represent the people who fought for Mauritania's independence from France. Now, President Aziz, to do this change, President Aziz is proposing a constitutional amendment. He wants to change the national constitution to make this flag change happen. And he has a few other ideas for changing the constitution. Some non-flag related stuff too, like changing government structure and things like that. So all these constitutional change ideas he has put into a single package of laws for the Mauritanian legislature to vote on. So how did it do? Well, in March, the legislature started with the National Assembly. The National Assembly took this law package of his and voted on it. And they passed it. So it was looking good. Then it went to the Senate, the other part of the legislature. And most members of the Mauritanian Senate are from the same political party as President Aziz. So you'd think they'd agree on this, right? The Senate voted against his constitutional amendment package. Why did they do that, you might ask? If they're from the same party, wouldn't they agree on a ton of this stuff? Well, it might have something to do with, a little detail. One of the constitutional amendments would have abolished the Senate from existence. President Aziz wanted to amend the Constitution so the Senate wouldn't exist anymore. Looks like the Senate, likes existing or something. So President Aziz did not take this news very well. I believe he said, we cannot allow 33 senators who voted against these amendments to hold the whole country hostage. He was not happy about this news. So he has come up with another idea to get his amendments passed. He wants to take it, not to the legislature this time, to the people of Mauritania. He wants a national referendum on his constitutional amendment ideas. So we don't have a date yet for this referendum, but if it does happen, and if his package of amendments does get passed, then we will see a new Mauritanian flag with red stripes on it. And if that happens, then poor little Jamaica will be the only country left in the no red, white, or blue club. Poor Jamaica. Our next story comes from the Middle Eastern country of Kurdistan, which actually is not an independent country yet. Okay, this is a complicated one. Here we go. The Kurdish people are an ethnic group that lives in this area of the Middle East. And as you can see on this map, they're kind of split between Iraq and Turkey and Iran and Syria. They don't have their own independent country. They're just split between all these other countries. But they've been trying to change that for decades now. They've been trying to make their own independent country called Kurdistan. And they even have a flag ready to go for it right here. It's red, white, and green with a yellow sun in the middle. This is the flag of Kurdistan, this country that they're trying to make for themselves. And they have not succeeded quite yet, but they've gotten pretty close in northern Iraq. In northern Iraq, the Kurdish people have this arrangement with the Iraqi government called the KRG, the Kurdistan Regional Government. It's sort of like a country inside a country. They're not totally independent from Iraq, but they are allowed to make their own laws in many cases and rule themselves. It's kind of like Greenland and Denmark. It's like they're not totally independent, but they're close in this KRG area that is ruled by the Kurdish people. But here's the thing. Not every single Kurdish person in Iraq lives in the KRG. There are also a ton of Kurdish people living in the surrounding northern provinces of Iraq, outside of the KRG. You still with me? Okay. And the province we're talking about today that had a little interesting flag news, actually some really interesting flag news, is the province of Kirkuk, right here. On March 28, the provincial government of Kirkuk decided to vote to fly the flag of Kurdistan and the flag of Iraq on all of that province's government buildings. Let me repeat that. An Iraqi province has decided to fly not just the flag of the country they're a part of, but also the flag of the country that a lot of their citizens want to be a part of, on government property. That's a bit of a statement. That is huge. That is big. That is enormous. That's like if the Vermont state capitol started flying the American flag and the Canadian flag. Wow. Okay, so keep in mind, even though most people in Kirkuk are Kurdish and probably want to join this Kurdistan, there are also people who are not Kurdish who mostly do not want to join Kurdistan. There are a lot of Arab people and Turkmen people, and many of them protested this decision. Okay, so a few days after they voted to do this, the Iraqi parliament got involved. The national parliament of Iraq got involved, and they voted to have all the Kurdistan flags taken down from the Kirkuk government buildings. The day after that, the Kirkuk provincial government basically said, no, we're keeping them up. 2 days after that, the president of Turkey got involved. He said, he basically made some threats against the Kurdish people and demanded that Kirkuk take down the Kurdistan flags, particularly because the Turkish government hates the idea of an independent Kurdistan. So then a few days after that, over 100 Iraqi lawmakers signed a petition saying they want the governor of Kirkuk impeached for this. 2 weeks after that, the Iraqi prime minister got involved and said this: they do not have the right to raise the Kurdistan region flag on government buildings. They can raise the flag on their party's offices, but the government buildings belong to the Iraqi government. And he also said, this is not the right moment for the Kurdistan region to hold a referendum. Because they're also, at the same time all this flag business is going on, they're also trying to get a referendum going for people to vote on a Kurdistan country. So this is all happening at the same time. And the day after the Prime Minister made his statement, the governor of Kirkuk made another statement in response. He said, if they find it unconstitutional, they can go to the Court of the Federal Judiciary Authority to appeal the decision. So he's basically kind of saying, if you want us to take down the flags, you're going to have to make us take down the flags. So this is basically what happened. The province of Kirkuk, which is an Iraqi province, has decided to fly the flag of Iraq and Kurdistan, and by doing that, they have freaked out the Iraqi government and enraged the Turkish government. But they're keeping the flags up. So, what happens next? I don't know. I hope it's okay. I hope it's not anything scary. I hope people will come to a reasonable decision over all this. I hope nothing goes out of control. So, will Kurdistan become an independent country? What will happen to the flags on Kirkuk's provincial buildings? Will Kirkuk join the KRG? Well, we don't know yet. We'll just have to stay tuned to the news and find out what happens next. Wow. Let's move on to our next story. Let's calm things down a little bit now and go to a less tense area of the world, Orlando, Florida in the United States, where, if you recall from our February 2017 edition of Flag News, they're having a flag design contest. It's still going on. It's May and it's still going on. So here's basically what happened. In April, they announced 10 finalist designs, and people voted on those. And the winner, by far, was this flag that had a blue background with a center sort of logo that depicted a very famous fountain in Orlando on Lake Eola, if I'm pronouncing that right. But a lot of people apparently did not seem to think it was a fountain at first. A lot of people seemed to think it looked like a whale. Like, you can see the fin, kind of, and like the water coming out of the blowhole. People thought it looked like a whale. And now that you mention it, yeah, now I can't unsee that. It looks like a whale. And apparently, to the people running this flag contest, that was not acceptable for people to have it think it was a whale. I guess Captain Ahab was on this committee. So, the flag committee contacted the 4 designers of the top 4 flags and asked them to make some tweaks, some minor changes to their flag designs for a second round of voting. So, this time, these new 2.0 versions of the top 4 designs are going to a second round of voting until May 22nd. And throughout the middle of May, this is kind of cool, they got actual flags made. They got actual cloth, physical flags made that if you live in Orlando, you can go to one of these locations on these dates and check them out for yourself. I think that's a great idea. Takes, don't judge a flag by just how it looks on a computer screen. Actually see it being used as a flag. That's a great idea. So that's what's going on now. So if you want, you can go to cityoforlando.net/flag to offer your feedback. So I wish you well, Orlando. I hope your flag contest ends, and I hope you end up with a great flag. I'm optimistic. These look like great designs. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me in this March and April edition of This Month in Flag News. I guess these months in Flag News, technically. But anyway, thank you for joining me. Good night, everyone. Take care. Good night, noises everywhere.